Hey guys, welcome back to the next part of the series. Today we're going to continue with the upper arm muscles that we have right here. So it's going to be the shoulder muscles and the upper arms that we have over here. Now, our character right now is going to look very, very wonky, very like weird. And this is perfectly normal. It's always one of the things that I struggle with about teaching the process to my students, because you see this and you're like, how the hell is this going to look like the final result? Well, remember that everything is like a layered process. That's why we do this polygroup option where we filter only the torso so that we can see and make sure that everything looks nice as possible. Now, I feel like it's looking a little bit noisy, especially with all of the muscles that I added right here. So I'm going to use String Dynamic to start cleaning up the shapes a little bit more. Remember, we can always add the detail later on. It's better to have clean shapes while working on the character like this. So let's talk about, I would say, my favorite muscle, which is the deltoid muscle. The deltoid is this big chunky muscle that we see right here. It's a very, very interesting muscle because it actually has three different like main points. We have a head of the deltoid right here on the front part of the character going towards the center of the arm. We have a middle head right here going from the clavicle all the way again to the center of the arm. And then we got another head all the way here going from the back of the arm to the center. Right there. So this muscle is very important because this is one of the muscles that connects our arm to the rest of the body. So we need to like properly create its form right here. So I'm gonna fill in some of those gaps right there. And when we see the muscle from the front, this is very important. We should see this sort of like stair step effect. Look at this, sharp line going down. So what I'm gonna do, especially since this character is very, very buffed, is I'm gonna make this deltoid a little bit more like buffed, right? I'm gonna add a little bit more volume. But I'm still going to make sure that when we see it from the top, we see the very straight line coming from the trapezius muscle right here, and then creating this like interesting shelf right here. Okay, so that's what I want to create on that particular point. I'm still going to use my move brush, and I think I really need to like increment the size right here a little bit more. Let me zoom out on the concept piece just a bit. We want to keep this sharp like form right there, but we still want to give it enough like a mass. Stylized characters tend to, again, to be this like exaggerated anatomy, but we don't want to like push it too much. There we go. So the trapezius muscle that we talked about in the last video will kind of like roll forward, and it will attach itself to some parts of the clavicle. And right here on the center of the clavicle, we're going to have the acromion process, which is a little like bump that we sometimes see on the bone itself. So I'm just going to add it for now, and later on if we need to modify it, we can modify it. Remember that the clavicles are kind of like bike handles, so when you see them from the front, they should be going forward. But when you see them, from the top, they should be going forward. But when you see them from the front, they're quite flat, as you can see right there. They're quite flat. I'm actually like inclined to push this down and just like straighten this thing a bit right around there. So yeah, there we go. Let's continue adding a little bit more of the muscles right around here. And now we're ready to talk about another favorite of mine, which is, of course, the bicep. Now, I don't have a super strong bicep, but these are the main shapes right here. So a very common mistake that people make with the bicep is that they make this super inflated bicep on the character like that. And actually the bicep is a very lean muscle. Yes, when you have bodybuilders like doing the flex, it like really like creates this interesting shape. But usually it's actually a muscle that we don't see that much from the front. So from the front, it's just gonna be like this square. I always compare it to like a gold-like bar or like a loaf of bread. It's this very like nice muscle, elongated muscle that originates on the chest area and goes towards the forearm. The insertion point of the bicep is actually the forearm, and when we activate the bicep, we get this effect right here. So see how thin I'm actually making this muscle? This is very, very important, because if we make it super thick, super like inflated, we're not gonna be able to make the whole arm work. Now, let me isolate. I'm going to go to select lasso, and I'm going to isolate this section right here. There we go. So when we see the arm from the front, one of the things that you should see is the insertion point here on the deltoid. So I'm going to push the deltoid. I think that's a little bit too elongated. Let's make it a little bit more compact. And as you can see, I'm pushing the inside of the like bicep towards the center of the element. Let me do one thing real quick, my friends. Give me just one second. So I'm downloading Krita right now. Krita is a free software for painting and drawing, and the reason why I'm downloading it is because I've done tests before, and it doesn't like have this issue with the tablets, especially my tablet, where like pen or pressure sensitivity is like freaking out or whatever. So let me install it real quick, and I'll show you what I mean by the connection on the. So if you don't own Photoshop or you don't want to pay the license for Photoshop, Krita is an excellent option as well. I'm not like requiring you guys to download it for your for this project, but it's quite handy to have. So let me download this real quick, or open this real quick. There we go. I'm gonna just create a new file right here, and yeah, custom documents, fine. Let's go. There we go. So when we take a look at how the arm is like connected, you're gonna see that we have three main muscles. We got the deltoid muscle, as we just mentioned, which is this sort of like shield shape with three heads, 1, 2, and on the back is the head number 3. And then from the inside, and here we have like the humerus. This guy inserts right around there at the halfway point of the humerus. And we have two more muscles that are coming in here. One of them is, of course, the pectoral muscle. You guys remember how the fibers of the pectoral muscle are also going to be attached to this particular point. So there's like an interweaving of muscles that's occurring right around here. And at the very end of this things, we're going to have the bicep as well. So these three muscles are going to create a very interesting connection. And the order is usually the bicep at the very end, the pectoral muscle in between the deltoid and the bicep, and then the deltoid at the very top. So if we go back to ZBrush, what we should see right here is kind of like a U shape that's happening right where the little cape of the insertion point of the bicep is coming out. And then this little shape that we get right here is the pectoral muscle going into the arm in between the deltoid and the rest of the muscles. So you can see how the connection starts like building up itself right around there, and we get this interweaving of like patterns. If you're doing a production where they're using like real physics and muscle construction, you're gonna have to sculpt this very, very nicely, because they will build new muscles on top of your mesh, and if you have the proper anatomy, then all of this becomes a lot easier. Now for the bicep itself, the bicep is called bicep because it has two heads, two main like forms. However, we're going to capture it as a single form right now, and later on, if we need to, we're going to like divide the little heads a little bit more. Usually the heads are divided like literally right down the middle like this. And the tendons of this bicep will go all the way to the forearm and attach themselves. And again, this is the function that we get. When we contract the bicep, we bring our lower arm closer to our upper arm. Now, there's a couple of other muscles that we're going to see right here on the arm, and they're very important for the silhouette. The first of them is going to be right here, and it's called the brachialis. It's kind of like, you think about like a hamburger, and you have like the two buns of the hamburger. Well, the meat is going to be the brachialis. It's very difficult to see, like you're not going to see it as much, but the volume is going to be right there. It's this section that you see right here. So again, when we see the, let's see like a side view of the arm. Let me go over here, there we go. So if we have a side view of the deltoid right here, the bicep is going to be right here. The tricep, in just a second, we're going to like place it on the back of the arm. And right here, we're going to have the brachialis, right in this area. But it's being like drowned by both of the big masses, which are the bicep and the tricep. However, you're still going to see a little bit of the volume, especially in characters that are really, really like this big, like this character. And then there's going to be other muscles that we're going to talk about with the lower arm that are going to be originating on that particular side. So this is the bicep right here. And on the back right here, we're going to have the tricep. Now, the tricep is a really, really big muscle. However, there's a very interesting thing. Even though it's called the tricep, we only see two heads of the muscle. The third head is beneath the other two. So we're not going to see them as much. So we're going to have this lateral head right here and this other lateral head right here, and they're going to create this very, very interesting volume. Now, all of these three heads are going to join together, and they're going to create something called the tendon of the tricep, which is going to look like this. And you can actually see it right here on the back, because when you see it from the side, that tendon usually is very, very flat. So I'm going to use Stream Dynamic here to capture that effect right there. Now, the interesting thing about the tricep is that when you see the arm from the front, the volume that you're actually seeing, like this thing right here, and this thing right here, is the tricep itself. So the bicep does not create the volume for the arm. It's the tricep that's actually giving us that volume. Now you can see how this character has this very chiseled look, and I think I've mentioned this before, but there's an author that I really like that's called George Bridgman, and George Bridgman has this book called Constructing Anatomy. I actually have it right here with me. So this one right here, Drawing from Life. And when you take a look at how Bridgman draws the muscles, he uses this very similar approach where things are very like hard surfacey. So I'm going to use my Trim Dynamic here. I'm going to start sharpening the borders here of the deltoid, for instance. And then I'm going to start sharpening out the borders of the tricep as well. Now, notice how I'm not increasing geometry on my character. We've been playing with the same amount of resolution, 128, for all of this time. And unless I see the need to really push my geometry up, I'm going to keep it at this point, to be honest. So even though it gives us this very like tessellated or like a pixelated effect, it's perfectly fine for the sort of stuff that we're doing. So let me just show you very quickly a diagram about the tricep, because the tricep has something that's called the long head and the short head of the tricep. And if you understand how those heads work, it's a little bit easier sometimes to sculpt the element. Look at this. So this guy, of course, I mean, this is not natural, right? Like you would need to do like extreme amounts of work to get something like this. There's probably some steroids involved, but you can see that we have the long head right here and their lateral head right here. The medial head, which is the third head, is beneath both of them, and they join together in this big tendon that we have right here. So when we sculpt the elements, you're gonna usually sculpt again like the medial head right here with a little leg. It has like a little leg that goes around the tendon like this. Very, very common. And then the big long head is this one right here that you're actually going to be seeing from the front silhouette of the character right around here. We're still going to see the brachialis. You can see it right here. Like that little volume that we see right there, that's the brachialis. But again, it's usually drowned by the other muscles right here. Look at that. This is a little bit more natural, I would say. So lateral head of the tricep and then long head of the tricep. And all of this is the tendon that's going to go towards the elbow. So our elbow, I'm going to do like a little triangle right here. Our elbow is going to be right around there. I'm going to use Train Dynamic to flatten this thing as well. And that's going to give us the main construction of the arm. And you can see, again, if we start like just focusing on the areas that we're working on, this is starting to look very, very nice. We get a nice, like very like a stylized construction of our character. So as we keep moving forward and we keep adding more stuff, you guys are going to see how the whole figure is going to look better and better. Of course, if we see it like this right now, there's a lot of things that do not match, proportions that are not working. But again, this is a stage-by-stage process. So don't be impatient. Don't rush this. Remember that whenever I teach this sort of like classes, I always tell you guys, try to get to this point first. Don't try to watch the whole video and then do it yourself, because you're going to have a little bit of a hard time trying to understand how all of these things are fitting together. Now here, I do want to add a little bit more volume on the bicep, because I can see these are very, very big biceps. So I'm going to add a little bit more volume on the bicep, not going all the way to the like the outer silhouette, but I do want to create like a big chunky bicep here. And again, with Trim Dynamic, I'm going to flatten this area to indicate where the main volumes of the muscle kind of like break, right? So again, it's focusing on the forms. Imagine we're doing a box, like a low poly version, or like like a box version of our character right now. Again, it looks very weird because the forearm muscles really make a lot of the profile of the arms as well. But this is looking good. I really like the direction. I do think that the head either too small or too big. Definitely gonna need to do a little bit of an adjustment. The neck, I'm gonna go up here. I'm gonna add a little bit of extra volume there on the back of the neck, which again, I know it's gonna be covered by the what's the word? By the hair and all of the horns and stuff like that. But still, I want to make sure that this looks as nice and as clean as possible. Oops, sorry about that. Take enough time here, my friends, to clean your stuff and make sure that you don't leave any area unattended. A very, very common mistake that I see people make is they find an area that they really like the chest or the arms, and they work a lot on that. They spend like hours and hours working on that part, and then everything else looks very, very weird. So take enough time to finish your chest, your shoulders, your arms right here, front part of the arm, back part of the arm. For instance, here, I'm definitely gonna give a little bit more volume to the bicep, especially here. And you usually see, again, when seen from the back, this is very important. When seen from the back, the tricep is gonna be a little bit higher than the bicep. So as you can see, I'm pushing this a little bit up. And then here's where we're gonna create most of the mass. Let's just, again, Trim Dynamic. And we're gonna start cleaning all of this up like this, to create a nice, like, clean shape, stylized shape that we're looking for. And now, as you can see, the back muscles are also going to be joined together. Let's take a look here. Look at this. I'm not lying. I'm telling you. That's the infraspinatus and that's the teres major and teres minor. See? Those two little bundles, and this is, of course, our latissimus dorsi. So all of the things that I'm mentioning, we've already have them right here. Yes, we might need to polish and create some of the, like, more specific details as we go into the cleanup stage, but so far, we got all of the main masses where we need them. So I'm going to stop the video right here, guys, and in the next one, we're going to take a look at the lower arms. And I'm going to teach you a very cool trick that's going to make it a lot easier because, to be honest, this was always the part that I struggled with the most when I was a student. So let's get to it. Get to this point, and I'll see you back on the next video.